The Nightingale Conant Corporation is pleased to present Marketing Strategy for Fast Growth, an effective manager seminar with Brian Tracy.
The primary reason for the success or failure of any business enterprise is the marketing function. In all successful businesses, the marketing function is the central core activity of the business. According to Dun & Bradstreet, 48% of all business failures can be attributed to a slowing down or ineffectiveness in the area of marketing and sales. In this session, I'm going to give you 21 of the most important ideas ever discovered in strategic marketing. Strategic marketing means finding a way to structure your product and service so that you can sell more of it, that you can sell it at higher prices, that you can sell it over an extended geographical area, and that you can achieve, whenever possible, market leadership, market strength, market stability in your product. Now let's start off with one key point, and that is this: the customer is always right. The customer's perception from the customer's point of view is always correct. Customers are disloyal, customers are selfish, customers are demanding, customers are fickle, and customers are ruthless, but they are always right from their own rationality, which means that any mistakes that we make or any slowdowns in our sales or marketing efforts are the result of the mistakes that we have made, not the mistake of the customer. Our job is to find out what the customer wants, what the customer needs, what the customer can use, what the customer can afford, and then to structure our offerings so that they meet the true desires, wants, and needs of those customers. Final point before we go to the board is this: marketing is a skill that can be learned, and marketing is a skill that must be learned. The most important function in every organization working in a dynamic, competitive economy, the core function, as I said before, is marketing, and you can become an excellent marketer. You can become an excellent marketer to the degree to which you internalize certain key concepts and keep those concepts in the forefront of your mind every single day when you're dealing with products, services, markets, customers, distribution channels, and so on. So let's go to the board, and let's start off with what I consider to be the most important starting point in successful business, and that is to ask yourself the question, what is the purpose of a business? Number one, what is the purpose of a business? Now, when I first learned this question, or heard this question, my response was that the purpose of a business is to make a profit. To my shock and dismay, to my surprise, and to my everlasting help, if you like, I learned that the purpose of a business is not to make a profit. The purpose of a business is to create a customer. All the efforts of a successful business are aimed at creating customers. And the second part of it is to keep a customer. All efforts of a successful business are aimed at keeping the customers once created. The cost of creating customers initially is very high. The cost of keeping them is far lower than the cost of creating them. So the entire marketing process, from the time you decide to open your doors till the time you become a multinational giant, has to be focused on creating and keeping customers. And if you look and you study the companies that are the most excellent at marketing, you'll find that their strategies are all aimed at creating and then keeping the customer base, building the customer base on a rock-solid foundation so that it does not diminish from year to year. How do we create and keep customers? Let me just give you three keys. Number one is quality. Quality is the most powerful of all market strategies. People will always come back to a quality supplier of goods and services, plus service. And according to the PIM studies, the most exhaustive studies on profitability factors, quality plus service are the keys that separate the winners. And then today we have one more critical factor. It's called relationships. And more today we're finding that it is the quality of relationships that determines whether or not we create and keep a substantial number of customers. All right, that brings us to question 2 under section 1. What is the purpose of marketing? The purpose of marketing is simply this, and you should write this down, engrave it on your desk, and read it every single day. It is to create perceptions. And this is an important word. That means that everything is the perception of the customer, not the reality of the world, but what the customer perceives with regard to your product and service. Create perceptions of unique added value. Unique added value. So that the customer perceives that your product or service has unique added value in comparison with your competitors. You see, no marketing effort exists in isolation. It always exists in comparison with what else is available to the same customer for the same dollars. Point 2 is 4 approaches, 4 ways that you can approach the market with your product or services. The first is by creating utility. In other words, by creating something that people can use, that people have a requirement for in order to accomplish their other goals, in order to accomplish something that's important for them. In other words, satisfying basic needs of customers. A perfect example is a shovel, is something that people need to use. A truck is something that has use value. An example of a new industry that's built on utility values or needs is Federal Express. Federal Express has created a brand new industry where one never existed before because there was a tremendous need or use value for rapid letter delivery overnight within 24 hours because of the slowness of regular mail, because of the speed and the importance of timely delivery of information. All right, what is another approach? The second is pricing. Pricing is a key approach. And many companies have been able to achieve market leadership by focusing on pricing. As a matter of fact, what they've found is that the greater your market share, the longer your production runs, the lower your cost of production, the lower you can bring your price down. The Japanese have used this strategy brilliantly in that they start off as low as possible, they gain market share, they manage to achieve economies of scale, pass the economies on to the customer, lower the price, increase the market share, greater economies of scale, lower price, and so on. So eventually they end up with enormous market shares. Henry Ford is the perfect example of pricing. His objective was through mass production to get the cost of an automobile within the price range of every single American family, and enabled him to become one of the richest men of his time, and at one time to have 61% of the United States market in automobiles. Absolutely fantastic. Never been achieved before or since. And of course, pricing is always achieved by cost advantage, by somehow getting a cost advantage over your competitors. The third is adapting to customers' reality. Adapting your product or service so it fits with customers' reality. And a perfect example of that is Sears became the world's largest retailer by initiating an unconditional money-back guarantee policy when they were in the catalog business. Why? Because the customer's reality was if you bought something that didn't work or didn't fit, then you were stuck with it. They recognized that the way to overcome that major barrier to purchasing was to structure their product offering so it was consistent with the customer's reality, offer an unconditional money-back guarantee, which has led to a complete revolution in merchandising and retail sales in the last few decades. And finally, the fourth is by delivering what represents true value to the customer. What is true value? By the way, this can only be found by working very closely with your customers. Again, IBM is the perfect example. What represents true value when you buy a high-tech machine or a piece of office machinery or some kind of equipment? What represents true value is not only the ability to use it, but the assurance that it will be serviced if something goes wrong with it. The security that once you buy the machine, you're safe. You don't have to worry if it breaks down. One of the most successful companies in the world today is a company called Tandem Computer, which manufactures computers that have parallel processes so that it is impossible for it ever to break down. If something happens to the main process, there is an entire second structure internally so that it will continue running 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They have found a market niche. The machine never breaks down. So you have to ask yourself, what represents true value to your customers? Remember, these are the two key words that we're looking for in all of marketing. One is uniqueness. What is the uniqueness of your organization? And the second is nichemanship. Where can you find a niche in the market where your uniqueness really makes a significant difference? Where can you find a niche in the market, a customer niche, an ecological niche, where what you do in a special way really makes a difference to those customers? All right, number 3. These are 3 key questions to ask with regard to marketing, especially with a new product or a new idea. 3 key questions. Question number 1, and it's astonishing how many companies that I consult for have never asked more than question number 1. The first question is there a market? Is there a market? In other words, are there people out there who will buy the product or service that you're thinking about bringing to the market? Remember this, the basic statistics are 80-20. They're 80-20-1, as a matter of fact. 80-20 means that 80% of all new products will fail. They will not achieve sufficient market share, and they will not be worth maintaining. The company will probably lose money and sometimes lose a lot of money. 20% will succeed in that they will repay their costs of investment and make a profit, and 1 will be a star. That means out of 100 new products that are introduced to the market in any given year, only one is going to be a runaway bestseller. What does this dictate to you? Well, what it dictates to you is you better be darn good and sure that there is a market out there for every single product, and you better bring a lot of products to the market if you expect to come out with a star. B is the market big enough? Now, this is a question that, surprisingly enough, people don't answer. People don't ask and answer. Is the market big enough? Just because somebody here and somebody there and somebody over there says, yes, we'll buy your product or service, are there enough people to make it worthwhile for you to invest in research, development, production? Is the market concentrated enough so that you can reach it with an existing market channel? You may find that there is a market of 100,000 units for a product, but if it's spread out over the entirety of North America, over 250 million people in 10,000 cities, towns, and villages, how are you going to get to that market? And surprisingly enough, a product or service for which there is a large market may not be a feasible product or service for you simply because you can't get at the market with existing market channels. Now, something I'll say and I'll come back to over and over again is that the way you get the goods out of the woods, the way you get the goods from the manufacturer or supplier, from yourself to the customer, the channel is often more important than the product itself. All right, number 4, all successful military campaigns are based on excellent intelligence and knowledge of the enemy. All successful marketing is based on good research and good market intelligence, knowing what is going on in the marketplace. This can be done a variety of different ways. One of the best ways you can do market research, by the way, is the focus group. Bring in a group of your customers, sit them down around a table, and ask them as many questions as you possibly can about what they think about your product or service, what they think about your strengths and weaknesses, what they think about your competitors, your prices, your packaging, and so on. Sometimes your customers can tell you things that will absolutely astonish you. I've worked with companies that have brought in groups of customers after they have engaged in very expensive promotional campaigns, and their customers have told them the promotional campaign and what they're focusing on is completely irrelevant to their main concern. So market intelligence, research intelligence, finding out what's going on in the market. Now, here are the key questions that you have to ask in market research. Number 1 is, who is your customer? Who is your customer? Who buys your product now? Also, who bought it in the past? Also, who's likely to buy it in the future? What is their age? What is their education? What is their income? What are their interests? What are their values? What are their attitudes? What is their family structure? What do they work at? And so on. Who is the customer? This is the starting point of all market research. As a matter of fact, I would say this is probably 50%. If you can accurately identify with precision who your customer is, the designing of products and services and market channels and advertising and promotion to get to that customer become infinitely easier. It's amazing how many companies start off with a product or service and they don't know for sure exactly who's going to buy it. Who your customer is and who it actually turns out to be may be different too. That's why continuous market research. Number 2, where is your customer? Where is very important, especially with regard to geography. Now, geography is important. Is your customer in the big city or the small city, in the center city or the suburbs, in the wealthier neighborhoods or the poorer neighborhoods? Do they work for big companies or little companies? But where is your customer? That determines what you manufacture, where you manufacture it, how you ship it, who you ship it through, and so on. Next is, how does your customer buy? How does your customer purchase your product? Does your customer normally purchase your product through direct mail, through retail, through wholesale? Do they purchase it at the office or at home? Do they purchase it by multi-level or franchises? Do they purchase it on regular shopping trips? Do they purchase it in conjunction with another product or service, or what? How do they purchase your product or service? So, for instance, there are some products or services that are never bought by themselves. They're only bought when people go shopping to buy other things. Okay, how do they purchase it? Now is why. And this is probably the most important of all questions next to who, is why do people buy your product or service? What benefits does a person expect to enjoy as a result of purchasing your product or service? Remember, people only buy benefits. Products and services are only ways to get specific benefits, and we'll come back to this a couple of times. So you have to ask, why do they buy my product or service? And finally, D is, what is the product being used or bought for? What do they buy it for? What do they intend to do with the product or service once they get it? And surprisingly enough, we've had all kinds of experiences in market research. One of the examples was when we set up a chain of four-wheel drive dealerships, and we hired a market research firm to find out who was buying our vehicles and where we were getting the greatest amount of sales and why. And we paid them $5,000 to do a very quick study. Questionnaire, telephone, computer assembly, report, and so on. You know what we found out? The people who were buying four-wheel drive vehicles lived near mountains, and they lived near areas where four-wheel drive vehicles were very useful. And we found that our biggest number of sales were coming from towns and cities that were next to mountainous areas. Does that seem logical to you? It certainly seemed logical to us, but until we took the time to do the research, we didn't know that. Once we knew that, we changed our advertising budgets, we changed our promotion, changed our television, changed our allocations of funds to dealers, and so on and so forth, and our sales went through the roof. We stopped trying to sell to people who were not our customers. Why do people buy products and services? They buy to satisfy needs. In economics, we say every action that you or I take is because of what is called a felt dissatisfaction. A felt dissatisfaction is simply this. Here is A. Here is where you are right now. Here is C, and C is a condition that is better than A in your perception. A person who is in A but cannot see anything other than A is usually contented or at least satisfied to stay where they are. As soon as the person sees that there is a C that offers them a state of greater satisfaction or improvement where they will be happier, they'll feel better for whatever reason, then they become dissatisfied with A. The third step is B, the product or service. Much of advertising and promotion, especially if you are creating a need or demonstrating to people there's a better way, comes from identifying who A is and then showing them that there is a C, that they could be better off, and then showing that there is a B, your product or service, that enables them to get from A to C. Very, very important. This is the key to motivating all human behavior, what I call the ABC theory. So let's look at some of the felt dissatisfactions. A is people buy because they see that they can be better off. They see that the product or service represents an improvement. As a matter of fact, nobody can buy a product or service unless they feel that they're going to get an improvement in conditions. So focusing on how they're going to be better off in your advertising and promotion, thinking about how your product or service will make them better off, is the key to successful marketing. Again, we say people buy benefits versus products or services. So when you do your advertising, you'll find that people aren't interested in the products, they're interested in the benefits, what they're going to enjoy as a result of it. People buy solutions to problems. Remember, everybody has problems. People buy solutions. They don't buy products or services. D, and this is one of the most important discoveries to come out of the Harvard work by Ted Levitt, is that people buy the feeling they anticipate, or the feeling they expect to enjoy as a result of owning or using the product or service. What is the feeling that people get when they buy an IBM computer? It's the feeling that they've made the right decision. It's the feeling that they have not made a mistake. It's the feeling that they're safe with IBM. People buy for psychic satisfactions far more than they buy for any other reason. It's the emotional content. So you have to say, how are people going to feel as a result of owning, using this product or service? That's why the importance of quality, service, and relationships are critical, because those constitute, especially the relationships, the emotional component of any product or service. People buy to save time or money, or to earn time or money. Time and money are interchangeable in terms of their desirability in our society, but people buy to save time or money or to earn time or money. Every appeal that is aimed at saving or earning time or money is a strong emotional appeal to at least 90% of your target audience. The next key with regard to motivation is what we call the two basics: desire for gain, fear of loss. Desire for gain is a key motivation of any kind. A very good marketing effort will try to incorporate both desire for gain and fear of loss into its marketing efforts. G is the more basic the need, the simpler the appeal. If what you're talking about is a security need, for instance, installing a fire alarm or a fire extinguisher, then what you say is, don't let your family die in the night. Provide the necessary security. If what you're selling is a complex or a subtle need, for instance, perfume or jewelry, then your appeal has to be much more subtle. Need analysis and studying needs is really important. People need security, they need comfort, leisure, love, respect, fulfillment, in that order of progression. And so whatever you're selling, you have to ask yourself, what need does this fill? And that's how you determine what kind of marketing appeal you're going to use. Let's go on to the next one. The next one that we come to, the next point in this, number 6, is competitive analysis. One of the most important things you can do is to think about who it is that you're going to be competing against. Who are your competitors? And here's some good questions with regard to competitors. Your competitors determine how much you will sell. Your competitors determine where you will sell it. Your competitors will determine the size, quality, relative mix of service and relationships that you put into your product or service. And your competitors will determine whether you succeed or fail and how much profit you make on sales and how much return you get on investment. So knowing your competitors is critical. It's like, again, a military campaign. You cannot design a military campaign or win at a military campaign without total consideration of who your enemy is. All right, so the first is, who or what is your competition? I mention this because very often you can identify that there's a specific company or series of companies who are your competition. Very often it's what, and often the what is market ignorance. Often your competition, the thing that is stopping you from selling as much as you want, is that people do not know about your product or service. So it could be that what you need to do is public relations, market awareness, advertising, promotion, and so on. Why do people buy from your competition? And be very, very honest. Why? What benefit or advantage do they see in buying from your competition? This is their strength, and in order for you to be successful, you have to be able to offset their strengths and exploit their weaknesses. Third part is, why should they switch? Why should anybody switch to you? If you can't give the answer to that in 25 words or less, it means that you don't know what it is. Remember, people don't switch just because you advertise, promote, and have a nice package and are a good person. People switch because they think they're going to be better off buying from you than buying from somebody that they already know. And getting people to switch from a known source of product or service to an unknown source is very difficult unless your advantages or reasons are thought out very clearly. What are your critical assumptions about your competition? And the biggest mistake that we make with regard to our competition is that we do not respect them enough. We do not respect their intelligence and their tenacity and their desire to drive us into the sea in pursuit of market share and profitability. So always assume that your competition is smart, competent, caring, intelligent, and thinking about the same things that you're thinking. Don't ever underestimate them. Ask yourself, what are they doing right? And once you've determined what they're doing right that's getting them market share and sales, ask yourself, how could you imitate? How could you imitate your competition in order to be better? And one final point is, ask yourself, who is your non-competitor? In other words, who is selling products and services to your same customers but is not competing with you? Looking at who your non-competitors are sometimes opens up market opportunities. And this brings us to number 7. Number 7 is competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is the key to success. Competitive advantage is the key to high profitability. Competitive advantage is the absolute essential for you to be successful in business. In other words, you have to be the best at something. You have to be the best at something. You have to say, with regard to our customers, we are the best in this critical area. As a matter of fact, everybody in your organization should know exactly why your company and where your company and your product or service is superior to every other competitor in the market. Because if you are not better than your competitors somewhere, somehow, in a market-specific area, then all you can hope for is survival, if that. What you have to do is you have to say, what is our competitive advantage? And if you don't have a competitive advantage, you have to say, what should it be? What should our competitive advantage be if we really want to survive and grow in this market? And then you have to ask yourself, what could our competitive advantage be? And this brings us back over and over again to uniqueness, differentiation. How can you make your product stand out from your competitors' products in a way that your customers will say, hey, that's a better product or service for me than what else is being offered? You remember the purpose of marketing. Remember, this is the most vital factor in all of business success. It's the most vital factor in all of profitability. It determines your level of profits, your level of competitive advantage. And this brings us to number 8. As a matter of fact, thinking about competitive advantage all day and all night is one of the keys to success in business. Marketing strategy means choosing who will be your competition. When you decide what markets to go into, what products or services to offer, you have to say who will be your competitor. Because your competitor, as we've said before, is going to have a major effect on everything that you do. If you decide to change markets, change products, change services, change customer bases that you are offering your products or services to, you change your competition. It's as if you have a country and you decide to go to war and you are surrounded by other countries. It's the direction that is going to determine all of your planning, because that's going to determine what country you're going against. So when you look at your competitors, ask 2 things. What are their strengths? And what are their weaknesses? All market strategy starts with identifying the strengths and weaknesses of your competitors and finding out ways to minimize their strength and to exploit their weaknesses, simultaneously to maximize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses. And B, with regard to this, what will be the competitive response? If you decide to enter the marketplace with a new product or service, if you decide to increase your advertising budget, to go after greater market share, if you decide to go after their rice bowl, are they going to counterattack with you? Are they going to come and lower prices? Are they going to expand their product line? Are they going to increase their advertising and promotion? I was studying great battles of the Western world last year, and I came across an interesting point written by a military historian. He said the ultimate aim of going to war is to establish peace on a new footing. The ultimate aim of market strategy is not to destroy the enemy, but to change the relative correlation of forces so that you're in a position to sell more of your product at a better price and make a better profit than you were before without triggering massive competitive response that forces you to burn up all of your profits in maintaining or sustaining what can often be an untenable market position. All right, here's another point. Number 3, what do you have to do differently than your competitors to survive, to grow, and succeed? And number 4, who will be your competition tomorrow? The way your business is going today, who will you be competing with tomorrow and the next day and the next day? Who will you be competing with in 3 years and 5 years? If your company starts to grow, your business starts to grow, it's going to bring you into conflict with major organizations rather than smaller organizations. Who are they going to be, and what can you start doing right now to position yourself so that they don't blow you away? Changing your competitor changes your business. This is number 9. We call these tactics of diversion and dissuasion. If you're starting out and you've got a good product and you've got a good service and you see an opportunity to sell a lot of it at a good price and make a good profit, then what you have to make darn good and sure is that your competitors don't see what you're doing and rush into the market. Remember, competitors come into any marketplace where they feel that there are above average profits to be made. Everything that you do to deflect their attention away from your potential profitability gives you a longer and stronger position in the marketplace. 4 things that you can do. First thing is appear to be unworthy of attention. Appear to be unworthy. Appear to be too small, too insignificant, going after too small a market niche. All right? Appear to be unworthy of attention. Don't make a big thing of it. Don't announce that you're going to be the nation's biggest supplier of this product or service within 36 months because it's an untapped market and the profits are potential are great and so on. Number 2 is appear to be unbeatable. Now, if you're a large company, and we'll come back to this tactic later, get your product and services out everywhere simultaneously so that competitors come in and say, geez, they're far too big to go after. I work with some companies that have established themselves externally so that the whole market reckons that they are so big, so strong, so fully entrenched, they have so many advantages with regard to internal systems and distribution channels, and sometimes it's not the case, that they can't be challenged. Be secretive, especially with regard to new product offerings, especially where you see tremendous market advantage. Be as secretive as possible until you are ready to launch. Remember, think of this in terms of military, unworthy of attention. If you're going to put together an army to attack, you don't want your competitors or your rivals to see that your armies are being drawn together and that you're forming. This is one of Napoleon's great strategies, is that he would keep his army divisions separate over a wide geographical area until he was ready for a major battle, and then he would have them all march together and mass their forces simultaneously to attack, sometimes within 24, 48 hours, and often overwhelm vastly superior forces because he was able to mass by remaining unworthy of attention until he was ready to go into battle. And finally, redirect attention. If you have a high-profit product and low-profit products, when people ask you, how's business going, redirect their attention to your low-profit, high-volume products so that your competitors begin to think that that's where the market is, that's where they should be channeling their energies, and be secretive and private about your most profitable product areas. Natural tendency of many businesses is, unfortunately, to blow their own horn. And what happens when you blow your own horn is you bring lots of other people into the marketplace. Here's the marketing plan. It has 4 parts. First part, A, is the product or the service. Determining very clearly what the product or service is going to be. What it is not, what goes into it, what stays out of it, what its ingredients are, how it's combined, and so on. That's a starting point. The second part of the marketing plan is the price. What are you going to charge for it? Now, 2 basic pricing strategies when you enter into a new market. The first strategy is called the skim strategy, where you come into the market with a new product at a high price, and you aim it at people who will buy the new products and services, what they call the innovators, the ones who try new things first, and you put high prices on the product and you make high profits in the initial market introduction. The second part is what is called the penetration price. A penetration price is where you come into the market with a new product or service priced so low that you kill anybody else's thought of coming in and competing with you. The weakness of the skimming strategy is that eventually you have to lower your prices because high profits bring competitors in. The weakness of the penetration strategy is that you always have to compete there ever after on the basis of low price, which is not one of the best ways to compete for high profitability. The third part is place. Where are you going to sell this product at this price, at this place? What location? What part of the country? What part of the world? What sort of stores? Large stores, small stores, and so on. And D, the fourth part of the marketing plan, is the promotion. The promotion is how you're going to advertise it, how you're going to get it from where you are to the final customer. This, by the way, is called the marketing mix. And all good marketing strategy continually looks at revising this, changing the products or services, changing the price, changing the place or location, and changing the promotion to somehow get a better mix which yields you a higher level of sales at a higher level of profitability. Number 11, marketing strategy number 1 is called firstest with the mostest. This is a military strategy. Firstest with the mostest means structure yourself so that you launch in such a way that you are everywhere simultaneously. This aims at market leadership. When you launch this product or this service, your aim is to be number 1 in your market area, number 1. Aiming at market leadership from the first day is not only the highest risk strategy, but is potentially the highest profit strategy. Apple Computer is a perfect example. They have aimed at market leadership in desktop publishing, and it has made them one of the most profitable companies in the world because they've got in there firstest with the mostest, high risk, but high profit, and they have managed to achieve it. Apple is one, Wang is another, Caterpillar Tractor is another. Here's another marketing strategy, number 12. It's called hitting them where they ain't. Introducing new products or service combinations into an existing marketplace that nobody else is offering. Hitting them where they ain't, for instance, is changing your existing products in your existing markets. Perfect example is when they add an anti-plaque formula to Gleam or to Colgate or to Crest toothpaste. What they do is they bring in something new in an existing product in an existing market. They bring in something that nobody else has in the same product. Another way that you can hit them where they ain't is creative imitation. Do them one better. Creative imitation means take what your competitors are doing and improve on it. Find something that your most successful people are doing. Instead of duplicating it completely, do it and do it one better so that you leapfrog ahead of them in market perception. Perfecting and positioning a product or service. This is another thing that you can do, is position your product differently. Perfect example of that is 7-Up. 7-Up struggled for years against Coca-Cola and Pepsi, and then finally it positioned itself as the Uncola, as a light, fresh, lemony, tangy drink as opposed to a dark, cola-like drink. And by positioning itself as the Uncola in the same market, it was able to increase its market share from 14% of the market to 20% of the market in a few years, which represents hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in additional sales. And finally, to add something new to your product or service, make it different. Again, coming back to our word, making things different, differentiation. Find and dominate a market niche. Dominate a niche. Now, a niche is a small market, or if you like, it is a distinct market where you can dominate it in such a way that nobody can come into the market and beat you. Some examples of dominating a market niche. One is called the toll gate. The toll gate niche is when you come out with a product or service that anybody who wants to get into a particular business or industry has to have. A perfect example of this, my favorite, is Hughes Drilling. Set up by Howard Hughes' father, he was the first person to design and develop and market a diamond drill for oil well drilling. And at one time, somebody says, well, do you need a Hughes drill? Do you need a Hughes drill to do oil drilling? He said, no, you've got two choices. You can use a Hughes diamond drill or you can use a shovel. And those were your two choices if you wanted to drill oil wells. They had a toll gate strategy, which meant that the drill wasn't that expensive, but if you wanted to drill oil, you had to have a drill. And they managed to make a fortune on it. Another thing is what is called a specialty skill. Develop a specialty that is so important that nobody can do without it efficiently. And a perfect example of this is Lotus 1-2-3, that Bill Gates developed Lotus 1-2-3, and as a result of it was able to build Microsoft software into a billion-dollar organization, make himself one of the wealthiest men in the world in less than 10 years. He came up with such a program that it was foolish to try to do spreadsheet accounting without a Lotus 1, 2, 3 system. Polaroid was able to identify a market that was so specialized, protect it with patents, be ahead of the marketplace, and so on. Very important. Number 14, and this is a very, very simple point. Successful marketing places the customer at the center of corporate attention. Successful marketing takes the customer, puts him in the center, and everybody in the company focuses on and thinks about the customer all the time. They develop what is called an obsession with customer service. They develop this idea of being close to the customer. They talk to the customers, communicate with their customers, interact with their customers, get out of the office and flow around with their customers. Buck Rogers' book on IBM, he says that every single person in the IBM corporation looks upon themselves as a customer service representative. Your company will be successful to the degree to which every single person in your company thinks about the customers all the time. Even the person who sweeps the floor, drives the truck, picks up the load, answers the telephone, types the letter. Everybody has to see themselves as customer service specialists. Just think over and over again, customer, 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 customer. Let me tell you this. There is a metaphysical law of concentration that says whatever you dwell upon grows. It says whatever you think about continually and dwell upon and reflect on and turn over in your mind and make the basis for your thought grows in your reality. What this means is that if you think about your customers all the time, your customers will think about you. If you dwell upon your customers all the time, your customers will dwell upon you. If you make the customers the central focus of your attention, you will learn more and better and faster and cheaper and easier ways to satisfy them, and they will reward you by patronizing you over and over again. Now, number 15 is one of the most important parts of all of marketing. It's called positioning. Positioning means structuring yourself in the market so that you are perceived to be better and different than your competitors. Different and better, better and different, it doesn't matter. But positioning starts off with asking a few questions. And these are the key questions. Ask yourself, first of all, how do you want to be viewed by your competitors? If you could write an ideal description, how do you want your product or service to be seen by your competitors? If 2 of your customers or 4 of your customers are sitting around a table talking about your company, what would you like them to say? How would you like them to describe you? How would you like them to refer to you to other people? If somebody called one of your customers to ask for a referral, how would you like to be described or talked about amongst your customers? How can you achieve that perception? One of the richest men in the world today is Sam Walton of Walmart. Sam Walton started off many years ago with a discount clothing store in Bentonville, Arkansas. And he had one simple concept. He wanted to be perceived as a store that cared about its customers and supplied them with good quality merchandise at fair prices. Not the lowest prices, but good quality at fair prices. He has managed to achieve that perception to the point where he's made Walmart one of the most successful retailing operations in history because all of his customers think about Walmart as fair prices, good quality merchandise. So ask yourself, what perception do you want? And how would it be useful for you to be perceived is the next question. How would it be useful for your customers to perceive you? In terms of where you want to go, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish in the future, what perception would it be useful for you to create in the mind of your customers? What IBM did is IBM created the perception that they would give the finest customer service of any company in the world. And that perception is so prevailing today that people who don't even know about IBM, when you say, what does IBM mean? They say, IBM means service. Very important. What could you do starting today to begin creating that perception? Now let me tell you this. The perception that you create on the outside can only be accomplished if you make fundamental, critical changes on the inside. In other words, you cannot create a false perception that is lasting. The perception must be a real perception of the internal structure of the organization. D is how can you position your product so that it stands out from your competitors? How can you position your product so that people look at that and they say, hey, that's different, that's better, that's worth buying, that's worth paying for? Number 16. Here are 4 basic growth strategies. They're very simple growth strategies, and the more you think about these strategies, the more ideas that you'll come up with. They're 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are existing products and services, and these are new products and services. And here are your markets. This is where you are selling your products or services now. Here are existing and here are new. This is a very simple matrix. So the 4 basic creative marketing strategies are, first of all, sell more of your existing products in your existing markets. Sell them by modifying them, sell them by increasing the quality of your advertising, sell them by lowering the price, sell them by combining them with others, expanding your distribution outlets. But this is strategy number one, more of your existing products and services in your existing market. Strategy number two is to sell new products and services in your existing markets to your existing customers. Think of what other products and services that you could create and offer for your existing markets where you already have established credibility and established distribution channels. Strategy number three is to come up with existing products in new markets. Look for new markets that you could sell your existing products in, both nationally and internationally. And strategy number four, often the most difficult, but sometimes the biggest payoff of all, is new products in new markets. Could you develop new products for new markets using your existing capabilities, your existing resources, your existing manpower, your existing production lines? Remember this, it's one of the most important of all concepts in marketing. I learned it when I was in university studying this. What is called the bundle of resources concept. Look at your company as a mental exercise, as a bundle of resources that is capable of doing many things. Primarily human resources, primarily production resources, primarily intellectual resources. But if you look upon your company as a bundle of resources, it sets you loose from the limitation of thinking strictly with regard to the products and services you have now or the markets and customers you're now serving. Think of it as being capable of producing any profitable product or service for any profitable market. And then look at how you might be able to create new products and services for new markets. Okay, number 17. Ask yourself, what other ways can you sell your products? I learned this from one of the most successful business people in America. He says 22 different ways to sell a product or service, and most companies sell their product or service not more than one or two ways. For instance, you can sell a product or service by mail. You can sell a product or service directly with salespeople calling on people. You can sell it by telephone. You can sell it by retail. And you can sell it through small and large retail, through department stores, specialty retailers, discount stores, and so on. You can sell it at wholesale and just have wholesalers sell it. You can sell it through manufacturers' reps. You can sell it through distributors. You can sell it through multi-level. You may be able to sell it through franchises. You may be able to sell your product to and through franchises that sell other products. You may be able to sell it by newspaper. You may be able to sell it on television, by telephone in. You may be able to sell it through massive promotions, trade shows, fairs, exhibitions, and so on. There's 22 different ways you can sell your product. You're probably only using one or two. One other way to sell your product can double your business and make you a market leader. IBM, for instance, made a massive change. They set up retail outlets, or they worked with retail outlets that were owned by other companies, first time in their history that they did not sell and service their own products, and they managed to double their market penetration in personal computers, setting up independent retail dealers all over the country to sell them. So look at different ways that you can sell your product. Number 18 is look at new products and services that you can create with your existing manpower. Imagine that you could sell any type of product or service to any type of market with your existing resources. What are the most attractive, unfolding, opening markets? Is it worthwhile to establish a new business, to explore new possibilities, to sell new products and services to new markets at new prices with new marketing channels? Keep your mind open. An open, flexible mind is really, really important in marketing, because many companies that are successful today selling or marketing a particular service may be selling something totally different 5 or 10 years from now and may be making far more money. Number 19 is distribution channels. Distribution channels are more important than products or services. The ways of getting products to the marketplace are more important than the marketplaces or the products or services, because you see, your product or services will change. We talked about the 80-20 rule, that 80% of the products that are brought into the market will fail. It also means that within 5 years, 80% of the products that succeed will be past their period of maturity and will be declining products. The distribution channels, however, remain. The distribution channels are the ways that you get the products from you to the final end customer. So ask yourself these questions, very, very creative questions. A is, what additional products could you sell through your existing distribution channel? Let us say, for instance, that your distribution channel is a mail order catalog. Well, the question is, what additional products could you put into the catalog that may be different from what you're offering now? Just a subsection of products. Daytimer is a perfect example. Daytimer, for years and years and years, sold materials that had exclusively to do with the Daytimer products. Then they began to put in stationery, letterhead, office products, and now they're into motivational programs, audio cassettes, video cassettes, and so on. All in the same distribution channel, all going to the same people, but they're adding additional products, which are extremely profitable. Question number 2 is, What additional distribution channels are there? What additional distribution channels are there that you can use to get your products out? Look at what some of your competitors are doing. Are they using distribution channels different from you? Sometimes changing your distribution channels can make a significant difference in the amount of your products and services that are going into the marketplace. What new products or services? What new products or services can you create for your existing distribution channels? Could you create new products or services? Could you develop new products or services consistent with your existing product lines? And number 4 is, what products completely different from anything that you've ever done could you create for new distribution channels or existing distribution channels? These are the key questions. Look at your distribution channels, and you will find, by the way, that if you keep your focus on your customer, if you keep your focus on what your customer is doing. Perfect example, Avon, for many years, built one of the most successful cosmetic retailing businesses in the world by knocking on doors. Avon calling, ladies went from door to door, did product demonstrations, left catalogs, and took orders, and they sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cosmetics. However, what has happened is that over the last 20 years, an enormous number of those customers have gone into the workplace. So now Avon is calling on offices. And the Avon ladies, instead of going door to door where people are not home, are now going office to office, leaving the catalogs, picking up the orders. In other words, they've changed the distribution channel from door to door residential sales to office business and commercial sales. And at the same time, by the way, they've changed the cosmetics that they're offering. They've changed the catalogs. They've changed and they've upgraded and they've added jewelry. And they've added other features and accessories that ladies who work want and need and are willing to buy and can afford now. Number 20 is market research, market testing. Market research is critical to your success. And testing, there's one basic rule with testing. It says test, test, test. Test. As a matter of fact, you can test and test and test and test, and there's still no guarantee that you will be successful. But if you don't do market testing, you'll almost certainly be a failure. Many companies are afraid to do market testing because of managerial ego. Somebody in the company doesn't want to find out whether or not the product is going to fail, so they don't do it at all. Okay, here's the key. Develop a bias for action. Do it, fix it, try it. If you have an idea, get out there and talk to somebody about it. Talk to a customer. Don't talk to people within the organization because you just end up drinking your own bathwater. Don't talk to everybody who thinks it's a great idea. Get out there in front of a customer who's going to have to buy it and say, look, thinking of producing this product or this service, it'll cost this price, it will do this, what do you think of it? And your customers will tell you almost instantaneously, hey, that sounds like a great idea, or no, that's not the way we do business. All right, ask a customer. Ask your way to success. Ask a live customer what they think. Bring a customer in and say, what do you think of this idea? Get a prototype. Get a basic model as fast as you possibly can. And Tom Peters says, cut your prototype time down by 75%. Cut your cost and time of development down by 75%. You get an idea, get a prototype, get it into the street. Lee Iacocca's famous example, he went to his engineering department, he said, I'd like a convertible. How long will it take to get a convertible? They said, well, about 9 months to get a convertible. He said, no, you don't understand. He said, I want a convertible now. He said, take an acetylene torch, take the top off one of those cars. I want to drive home with a convertible today. In other words, do it fast. And what they found was that everywhere he drove down the streets, people waved at him. He said, there's a market here for convertibles. The only real test, this is so important, the only real test of a product is a market test. The only real test is a market test. The only way you can really tell whether a product is going to be successful is by taking it into the marketplace at a certain price, at a certain cost, and offering it to customers and having customers buy it or not buy it. And the sooner you get a market test, the more accurate you're going to be, the more successful you'll be. Aim for what is called immediate feedback. Immediate feedback. When we were developing seminars some years ago, we had a very, very simple strategy. And we'd say, this is a seminar that people want, need, can use, and can afford. This is a seminar that we can develop and design and present. So what we would do is we'd send out 5,000 pieces of mail. We would get on a couple of interview shows, and we would advertise in the newspaper, and we would bring people out and see how many people actually came out to attend the seminar that we were offering. And we could tell within 30 days whether or not we had a seminar that was a winner. We could tell by the people who came, the number who attended, what they said as a result of the seminar, the evaluations they filled out, but we would get very, very fast market testing, which made it possible for us to develop a series of very successful seminars. Not all successful, mind you. Some were not. This one is. And finally, 4 keys, which should be drummed into the mind of every single person who is concerned about profitability in a company. These are the 4 keys, and remember them over and over again, because wherever you see a successful company, you see these 4 keys being recognized and developed par excellence. Wherever you see an unsuccessful marketing effort or a disappointing marketing effort, something is wrong with one of these 4 keys. Key number 1 is specialization. We live in an area of specialization, which means producing high value-added products of an excellent quality, and that's the key. Only go into markets where you can produce products that are of excellent quality. Only go into markets where you can offer something of distinction, something of value, something that's better than your competitors. B is differentiation. Once you know that your product is good, then ask yourself over and over again, how can we differentiate it from our competitors? Differentiation is the key to profitability. You cannot achieve high profitability unless you achieve high differentiation. So in your customer's mind, this product is distinctly different and better in some way or many ways from what is offered competitively. Look for ways to differentiate your product all the times in terms of quality, packaging, people, service, relationships, follow-up, and everything else. And segmentation. Once you have specialized and determined what product or service you're going to offer of excellent quality, and you have differentiated that product and thought about how you could make it different from your competitors, then segmentation is to look for the customers, the who in the marketplace for whom your product with its different features can be the most valuable, the ones to whom it makes the greatest amount of difference, the ones who can use it the most, the ones who will pay the most for it. And then D is concentration. Concentration is the essence and the final key to marketing strategy, which is to concentrate on those market segments where you can sell the most of your product at the highest price. Who is your customer? Find out what your customer wants. And if there is any single secret to success in life, it's simply this. Find out who your customer is and give your customer what he or she wants. And give your customer what he or she wants, and then strive every day to make it better and to make it faster and to make it cheaper and to make it more attractive and to make it stronger and make it durable and make it last longer and make it more acceptable, more desirable in the mind of your customer. If you will practice these key principles of market strategy, specialize, differentiate, segment, and concentrate, then nothing can stop you from being an excellent marketer and achieving excellent profitability.